Now let's move to bioenergy, and it's my pleasure to have our colleagues here from the World Bioenergy Association, in particular Christian Rakos, who is the president of the World Bioenergy Association. Christian, you've been in the bioenergy sector, in particular in the wood pellet sector, for many years, and now you started being the president of the World Bioenergy Association in these a bit challenging times less than a year ago. Now we look forward to hearing from you what bioenergy can contribute to a renewable energy world. Christian.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be here. Let me just shortly share my screen. Yes, I think, is it visible?
Yes.
Thank you, Stefan. Yes, I would like to give you just a very brief overview of regarding the role of the bioenergy sector and also of the development of the bioenergy sector. The bioenergy has been the first source of energy that humans have been using. So it is a very old sector. And being such an old sector, it's easy to be also a big sector. Large parts of humanity are still living mainly on biomass as energy source, and that's the reason why biomass is very large in quantitative terms. It's 12% of the global final energy consumption. If you compare that to nuclear, which is only 2%, you can see it's 6 times as much. Maybe a surprise to many of you. So it is big. And its potential is even bigger. For the time being, most of the renewable energy that is supplied by bioenergy is based on wood. It's based on forestry. It's based on using firewood in traditional economies. It's based on using residues of the wood processing industries in Europe, for example, or on residues from forestry that cannot be used for higher purpose. Where the big potential lies is in the byproducts and residues from agriculture. You can see blue is the current use, orange is the potential use. It could also play an important role in dedicated crops, or even just in the use of organic waste. Much potential is possible. We could process organic waste with anaerobic digestion, for example, produce biogas. So there is still a lot of development potential. And in fact, we believe that the bioenergy sector could triple its share in the global energy supply, which would make it about 30% of global energy supply, probably then by that time the largest contributor to global energy. There are a lot of myths about bioenergy, and I just want to mention one because it was such an upheaval 10 years ago when the food versus fuel debate kind of was launched. If you recall, 2007, 2008, oil prices were exploding, and so were food prices. And it turns out, if you look at the way that oil prices have been developing and food prices have been developing, it's very interesting to see how closely they have been correlating in the past. And one of the reasons is, of course, that our agricultural system is based on a very substantial input from the fossil energy. And if fossil energy suddenly gets expensive, so does food. Incidentally, at the same time, biofuels production was taking off quite strongly. And a lot of people thought, food prices are going up, biofuel use is going up. That's the reason why this is the case. And in fact, if you can look at the further development, biofuel production continued to increase and was totally unrelated to food price index. So this is just one example of misunderstandings that kind of create prejudice that don't really reflect the facts. Now, of course, and this is relating to a very important discussion, bioenergy has an impact on the environment because it is using plant material. And sustainability is an absolutely critical must for any form of bioenergy. We are fully committed to this. And we are also, quite frankly, know that there are current forms of bioenergy used that are not sustainable. If you take, for example, fuel use in Africa, the forests in Africa are declining faster than in South America. And that is mainly due to fuel use and land use change towards agriculture. Palm oil is a very well-known example of an unsustainable use of plant material. Well, most of it is going to the food industry, not to the energy industry, but still it's something that has created huge damage in biodiversity terms. So how can we achieve sustainability? One key point is technology improvement. Traditional ways of using bioenergy are very inefficient, are polluting. And by relatively modest modifications of technologies, just mentioning clean cook stoves, sustainability can make a huge leap and massive improvement. You could replace the use of charcoal in Africa, for example, by using pellets made from agricultural residues. Which would result in a huge decrease of deforestation. It just needs to be done. But the technology for doing so is there, and I believe it's going to come. Of course, sustainability is not only about technology, it's also about the sourcing. And I mean, in the forest sector, certification has become a safe way of ensuring sustainable production. Certification, and of course, also legal requirements, which are very stringent, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. There is no example of unsustainable forest use for the time being. Most of the unsustainable forest use is happening in the Southern Hemisphere for the time being. So certification is also a must, not only for woody biomass, but also for other forms of biomass eventually. The critical advantage of biomass is the closed carbon loop. The plants take out carbon from the atmosphere, CO2 from the atmosphere, converted to plant material. Same CO2 is being released as they are being used for energy. But this is within a very short time scale and thus reduces the emissions from fossil fuels, which stay in the atmosphere permanently. So that's the key reason why we want to use bioenergy, one of the key reasons. And the other is the huge potential. As I showed you, there are so many opportunities that have not been used in the past that are still here to be used. I think it's going to be able to play an important role, as my predecessors have said, with of course, in combination with the other forms of renewable energy. And I see bioenergy especially in a field the other forms of energy cannot so easily address, and that is heat. Decentralized use of heat in households, for cooking, for heating, also in industrial processes. These are the strong points where bioenergy can really make a difference and can supplement what is coming from solar energy, from wind energy, of course, also what is coming from geothermal. So that was my contribution, and I'm happy to take any questions from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christian. I think that was a very comprehensive also way how you presented the role that bioenergy can play and plays already. And it's important indeed to address also those sustainability issues, which are sometimes a little bit dominating, I feel, the role that bioenergy plays. And it's the actual role is a bit sometimes in the public perception diminished, because bioenergy has been traditionally one of the first sources of energy that mankind has been using. And of course, we do understand that there is a role, an important role that bioenergy has to play also in the future energy systems. So I thank you very much for your contribution as well. If we have any questions, I'll come back to you.